Oh, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live for our Soul Sunday broadcast. For those of you who are new to the broadcast, maybe watching it on the replay, on Sundays, we take the tone down a bit. The idea being, let's get ourselves nice and relaxed, ready for this week and what this week may bring us. So just be aware that the regulars will pop in and they may chit-chat with me. On Sundays, I'm inclined to answer less than I would normally do because we're trying to concentrate on keeping the mood on the subject on a Sunday. But the other thing is this: if you happen to join in on the chat, I may ask permission to repeat what you have written. The reason being that as a new viewer, you might not be aware that the broadcast actually replays, and therefore you might not want that particular conversation on the replay. So welcome to everybody. Hi, Jody. Good to see you, Isabel. Good to see you as well. And let's just breathe in deeply while we prepare ourselves for the coming week. The topic for today is contentment. That's an ease of mind. Contentment is an ease of mind. It's a state of happiness and of satisfaction. And you know, if we just breathe in deeply and just for the next little while, concentrate on being content. The interesting thing is that to be able to be content requires that we let go of a lot of stuff. We might need to let go of things that are worrying us. We might need to let go of pain. We might need to let go of stress, of illness, of a relationship problem. But you know, just for the next little while, let's see how well you do just being content. You see, to be content doesn't mean you don't desire more. It means you're thankful for what you have and patient for what is to come. Tony Gaskin said that. You know, I'd like to give an example from my life. Tomorrow, a house inspector will come and talk to the potential buyer that's made an offer. They will walk through my house and decide whether it is a good buy or not. Now, that's actually a joke, if you like, because if it all comes out pretty normal, then I will be that much closer to saying goodbye to my house. But if for some reason the inspector thinks that it's a money pit waiting to happen, I'm hoping that's not the case, then it would be goodbye to the deal. Now, for a lot of you, you can see that that could be really stressful. But you know, it's only really stressful if I think about tomorrow. You see, today, I don't have to worry about that. Today, I don't have to concentrate on which way it will go because I am already prepared for either way. So today I can be content. Does that make sense? Today I can just enjoy today and the smell of food from my kitchen, my friends here online. I can just be content. And you know, it was said that happiness will never come to those who fail to appreciate what they already have. And I think that is a really important thing. I constantly am giving thanks for the things that I have. And I wonder if you do. It'll be little things, you know, it's the fact that I've got a gizmo that does something, or that I've got a cooking appliance that saves me a bit of time, or that I've got friends that care about me. You see, if you can spend your days being grateful for what you have rather than miserable for what you don't, then you will be content. And I can assure you, whether you believe it or not, you have more than most people in the world imagine would be heaven. I wonder if that makes sense to any of you, that you already have more in your life, if you know, depending on where you live, but you already have more in your life than the majority of people in the world would dream of. As Benji, for those of you who know Benji, as Benji said to me, it's a first world problem. In the third world, they don't dream of having this problem. They said that contentment is an attitude that says, I will be satisfied with what God has given me. So today, thank you for letting me wake up, God. Thank you for making me smile, God. Thank you for giving me people in my life that care about me. I appreciate that. And thank you for allowing me to be able to cook on a Sunday and have people that will appreciate it regardless of what it is. You see, that is how you become content. And somebody whose name I couldn't even begin to pronounce said, contentment is the greatest form of wealth. As I sit here right now, I so agree with that. Right now, I feel very rich. Not with money. I feel very rich with my life. I wonder if you do. And there is a proverb that says, a harvest of peace is produced from a seed of contentment. A seed of contentment. So find the seed of contentment in your life today. Just breathe. Be grateful we can have this time together. And as I said in a different way just now, somebody is happy with less than you have right now. And if you want to be content, they say that comparison makes finding contentment 1,000,000 times harder. Think about that. Comparison makes finding contentment 1,000,000 times harder. Boy, I am quite content with myself at the moment on a number of levels. But, say I compared myself to Isabel, who's online here, who's managed to do keto for 1.5 years. You see, I would destroy my contentment in that moment, because I'd be comparing what she's achieved versus what I've achieved. I could do that to myself. Or what if I compared myself with Jody, our admin, who does such a great job of keeping track of everything? I'd be pretty humbled by that too. And it would spoil my contentment. So I am grateful that I've got, people in my life that are going to teach me more and more about how to look after my body better. And I don't have to do it in a heartbeat. I don't have to do it by tomorrow. I just keep taking one step at a time towards that. You see, if I stop comparing my progress with other people's, I will be so much more content. Because the real person I am in a race against is me. True humility is contentment. Henry Amiel said that true humility is contentment. You know, where we don't need to show off. We don't need to gloat. We don't need to have revenge. We don't have to, none of that stuff. We just need to be. As I so often say, be a human being, not a human doing. The state of being mentally or emotionally satisfied with things just as they are. Contentment is said to be the state of being mentally or emotionally satisfied with things just as they are. Right now, in this moment, are you content? Because if you are capable of taking that split second to be mentally and emotionally satisfied, the answer will be right at this moment, yes. We don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. We don't know what's going to happen an hour from now, or 2 hours, or tomorrow. Just let's be content today. The Buddha said, health is the greatest gift. Contentment, its greatest wealth, and faithfulness, the best relationship. I'm going to read that again because it's magical, isn't it? Health is the greatest gift. Whatever level of health you have, you may not be as healthy as you were 10 years ago, but health is the greatest gift. So whatever that health level is today, be grateful. It's not a whole lot worse. Contentment is the greatest wealth. To have the ability to control your mind, your emotion. Think about that. If you are capable of controlling them long enough to be in the moment, then you are indeed wealthy right now, because you have the greatness that so many people strive for. And faithfulness, the best relationship. Some of you have faith in a religion. It doesn't matter which one. And that is, I am pretty certain, a really good anchor for you at different times in your life. And one of the questions I always ask people who write to me, and by the way, feel free to do that, who write to me with major problems, one of the first questions I always ask them is, do you have faith? It doesn't matter which one. Do you have faith? Because if I know that they have faith, then I can steer them in different directions. People who do not believe in anything, it's difficult to steer them if they have lost faith in themselves. And E.A. Kabaltika, that's not an easy word, is it? Said that happiness comes after contentment. I'd like to suggest that happiness is the byproduct of contentment. If you're feeling that contentment right now, I'm pretty sure you feel pretty happy right now. Because you don't need much else in the moment. And so the greatest gift is to be able to live in the moment. Forget about the past. Don't worry about the future. Be here, content, right now. And it was said, although we don't know by whom, Realize that true happiness lies within you. Waste no time and effort searching for peace and contentment and joy in the outside world. You already have it if you can control your mind and your emotion for just a moment. And whenever you are feeling incredibly overwhelmed, stop and find contentment. Stop, take a deep breath, and remember what you're grateful for. Stop and remind yourself that, thank goodness the problems are only this bad. They could be a lot worse tomorrow. Stop and find contentment in the moment. And that well-known philosopher Anonymous also said, you can own everything in the world, but if you lack contentment, you will never be happy. Hi there, Laurie. It is Laurie, right? It is such a great lesson. I'm glad that you feel that way. And for those of you who agree, you know, it's pretty simple, isn't it? Hi, Kerry. We're talking about contentment. Contentment is an inexhaustible treasure. Right? Just in that moment, if you can stop, don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future, just be in this moment. You have a treasure that not many people do. And by the way, that was actually a quote from the Prophet Muhammad. Henry Thoreau said, simplify, simplify, simplify. Take a moment and look around you and go, yes, I am grateful for these things, but how many of them do I really need? One of the great contentments that I have found in this process this year is I have half my house, maybe more, packed up in boxes down in my garage. You know, I don't really miss it at all. It's scary. It's there should I need it, but I can't tell you I miss it because what is upstairs is the stuff I need to live and to enjoy my life. It's a very good lesson. And I would recommend all of you to try one box of simplification. Maybe take a box and see if you can fill up a box with stuff that you might not need. And, you know, make sure that, like me, you get a good list going of what's in box number 1, in case you should ever need it. What I did is I took boxes into different rooms. And what I did was I just said, I need to fill up one box, that's all. And that box is called bedroom box number 1. You know, that's interesting. Beth is saying, I don't really simplify anything in my life, but I did find balance, which led me to contentment. It's interesting you should say that, Beth, because I was talking with Jody today, and I said that my life at the moment is like a teeter-totter or a seesaw, if you happen to be a Brit. It's like a teeter-totter. And what happens is that right at the moment, I'm balanced. You know, if the internet should suddenly go down, you understand my balance will change. And then I will need to balance, you know, put more effort into this bit to bring it back into balance. And then, tomorrow, depending on what the results are of the inspection, boom, I can go out of balance again. And then I will need to do more work to bring myself back into balance. So I totally agree with you, Beth. And I find it interesting now as I feel myself go out of balance. I just go, wait, stop. What are you scared of? What do you need to do? And how can I get back into balance? And it's amazing to me how many times what are you scared of becomes quite obvious to me then. Rachel Cruz said, it is almost impossible to be satisfied in your own life if you are constantly looking at what somebody else has. True? If we are constantly comparing ourselves with somebody else. And Jim Faglano said, gratitude and love are always multiplied when you give freely. It is an infinite source of contentment and prosperous energy. And so I would encourage you to do that. Be generous with your time this week. Be generous with your skill this week. And be generous with your creativity this week. If one's life is simple, contentment has to come. Simplicity is extremely important for happiness. Having a few desires, feeling satisfied with what you have is very vital. Satisfaction with just enough food, clothing, and shelter to protect yourself from the elements. And finally, there is an intense delight in abandoning faulty states of mind and in cultivating helpful ones in meditation. And that was a quote from the Dalai Lama. Contentment is natural wealth. Luxury, artificial poverty. Socrates said that. Just become totally content and happy from within. Then you will get all that you want. How many of you can feel that the vibration, when it's lower, just makes you happier? When you're constantly buzz, 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 it's not a state of happiness. It's a state of doing, not being. And you are, first of all, a human being. And Beth is saying, I got out of balance today, but I cried and then just had to remember that it's okay as long as I can recognize it, seek to understand it, and then move on. Oh, Beth, you have found the secret to happiness. Listen to what she said. If I can just remember that it's okay, as long as I can recognize it, seek to understand, and then move on. You know, I had a viewer in a bit of a crisis earlier today, and they were contacting me, and they have a situation which is very wrong. And they asked for my opinion and my input. And I said, you know, I really recommend you do something. And specifically, I would recommend you get hold of a lawyer and get some legal protection. And you know, it was funny because the answer I got was, that's not what I want. That's not the answer I wanted. And I just, inside myself, I smiled because I went, no, but it is the best answer I can give. And so I just wrote back and said, I am so sorry you asked for my opinion. And I gave it. You have a choice, and it's a simple one. Do something different and make the situation change, or continue as it is and continue to be a victim. You see, and all I needed to do was to let that be, because that is the truth. How many of you know that? If you've got a situation that you are in, you have always got a choice. Do something about it or don't. And if you do something about it, it may get worse before it gets better. But one thing's for sure, if you don't do anything about it, it's not going to get better. A grateful person is rich in contentment. Patience is the key to contentment. Patience is the key to contentment. You see, regardless of what's going on in your life, just be patient, more patient than you want to be. Life will continue to unfold as it should. And that requires a level of faith. How many of you have that ability to say to yourself, it's okay, life is unfolding as it should? And regardless of what life throws at you, that you remind yourself, this too is a lesson. This too is a lesson. And another quote from that well-known philosopher, Anonymous: contentment always eludes those who don't count themselves blessed for what they already have. Think about that. If you can just stop and be grateful, regardless of what it is. You know, I saw a note there from Kerry that she's, hurt her elbow a bit with cleaning up. You know, isn't she lucky to have an elbow that can hurt? Because there are many people in the world that don't. Or isn't she lucky that she has a room and has enough stuff that it can be untidy? Because so many people don't have an untidy room because they don't have anything to make it untidy. Thank you, Crystal. That's the name I was looking for. Thank you so much, honey. And a big hug to you. For those of you who don't know, Crystal goes way back. Blog TV days, I think. So, how many of you are feeling content right now? Were you able to put yourself into that place of contentment? And I really do encourage you to continue to see your life as a teeter-totter or seesaw in England, to see yourself as on a teeter-totter. And this put you out of balance. I need to put more weight on here to get it back into balance. And the weight that you need to put on is called process. You need to process what scared me there. What don't I know that I want to know before I can be back at peace again? Mark Twain said that good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, this is the ideal life. Well, Crystal, we are so happy to see you again, honey. We got new guys. But by the way, the Oz did come in to visit us last week, so we were very lucky for that. Yes, Nyasha, I am so delighted that you have got to that stage. Nyasha saying, I'm trying to remind myself of that each day, that it is what it's meant to be. And I still get upset now and then. But whenever I bring myself back to reality, the hurt goes away. So, Nyasha, for you to be able to write that means that you can now see how much of your life you lived in Disneyland instead of in reality. This is how it should be, instead of going, this is what it is. And if I want to create Disneyland, I have to do something. One step at a time, not overload. So Kerry's saying that she's had one of her maternal grandmother's many quotes running through her head a lot since she had a fall. And that quote is, well, it certainly didn't do them any good. Yeah. It didn't do you any good. And I'm certain that you've learned a lesson in it somewhere, if you processed it correctly. And one of the lessons, Kerry, that I find quite often is that I needed to sit down and rest. That quite often when I always ask myself if I get sick, I always ask myself, what are you sick and tired of? All right? Because what I found is that if I get sick, if I got sick, then I'm sick of something. And so it's time to process. Beth is saying her favorite quote was, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. It's interesting, Beth, because I actually pace myself throughout the day. And the top of each hour, this is time to do something. And then it's time to clean something. And then it's time to be something. And then it's time to rest for a little while. And I sort of, continue my day. And at the beginning of each hour, it's time to do something. What is the next step on the number one thing on my list? But I think it's okay to rest as well. Many people lose the small joys in the hope for big happiness. Many people lose the small joys in the hope for big happiness. You know, that really is so true. If you cannot enjoy the moment right now because you're so busy working on the huge happiness you think you'll be able to achieve, let me try and explain that to you, Nyasha. What that saying means is if you've got time to take a break and lean, then you also have enough time to go and clean something. It's about how do you use your time. Right, and Jody also says that she needs to rest in between tasks as well. Yes, so true, Beth, right? And I love it that you can see that. Beth is saying, I lost the small joys of talking with my husband for years, but now he can't shut me up. Oprah said, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. Lao Tzu said, because one believes in oneself, one doesn't try to convince others. Because one is content with oneself, one doesn't need others' approval. Because one accepts oneself, the whole world accepts him or her. Theo Tolstoy said, a quiet, secluded life in the country with the possibility of being useful to people to whom it is easy to do good and who are not accustomed to have it done for them. Then work which one hopes may be of some use, then rest, nature, books, music, love for one's neighbor. Such is my idea of happiness. How many of you go, yeah, I wouldn't mind that either? Let me read that again because really that's amazing. A quiet, secluded life in the country with the possibility of being useful to people to whom it is easy to do good and who are not accustomed to have it done to them. Then work, which one hopes may be of some use. Then rest, nature, books, music, love for one's neighbor. Such is my idea of happiness. Longfellow said, for, after all, the best thing one can do when it is raining is to let it rain. The best thing you can do when it is raining is to let it rain. One of the joys I have found in the last decade is to react differently when it's raining. You know, I used to go out of my door, and if it was raining, I would run to my car to get in it quickly. And now I just walk and go, it's rain. It's not going to kill me. And and then I could hear this voice in my head saying, yeah, but it's going to mess up your hair. And I go, not much. And what if you knew that you were naturally beautiful and it didn't matter if it messed up your hair? And if I really get concerned about that, I just put my hand over my head and I still walk to my car. And I've noticed it as well when, you come out of the market and the supermarket and, suddenly it's raining when it wasn't when you came in, and people are running with carts and things. And quite honestly, it's quite dangerous. And I just walk. Walt Whitman said, I have learned that to be with those I like is enough. How many of you found that level of contentment? And you will know that you have found true contentment if you can sit with those people and not say anything, but still feel content. Henry Fielding said, I am content. That is a blessing greater than riches, and he to whom that is given need ask no more. And yet, if you understand what it is of which I speak today, you will understand that this is a gift we give ourselves. Stay in the moment. Don't worry about what you need to do next. Just be in the moment. That is the lesson. To be content, Lao Tzu said, with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize that there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Eleanor Roosevelt said that happiness is not a goal. It is the byproduct of a life well lived. You see, I so agree with her, because to be happy, we need to control our minds and our expectations and our realities. We need to live in reality, not in Disneyland. We need to be grateful for what we have. And we need to be able to calm and slow down our mind. It's a gift we give ourselves. And Socrates said, and think about this one, people, he who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he doesn't have. So true. For be the things I am wiser to know, idleness, sorrow, a friend and a foe. For be the things I'd be better without, love, curiosity, freckles, and doubt. 3 be the things I shall never attain, envy, content, and sufficient champagne. 3 be the things I shall have till I die, laughter and hope and a sock in the eye. Dorothy Parker, from her book, The Complete Poems of Dorothy Parker. Maya Angelou said, we need much less than we think we need. we need much less than we think we need. You know, something happened in my life this week where, because I sit on my bed to work my computer, I don't sit at an office chair or anything. I sit on my bed and use my computer a lot. You know, the weight that I have, destroys mattresses pretty quickly. And I was thinking about, I'm going to have to replace my mattress pretty soon, because I can feel at night when I sleep that, that dent in my mattress is causing a certain amount of pain in my back. And so I started to research, because that is fun, to see what sort of mattress I would like to have next. And I thought of some of the names I'd seen advertised, like the Casper, or this one or that one. And, the Sleep Number bed came up quite often for me. And then I thought, I wonder how they make that. Why is it so special? And then I went and researched how they make a Sleep Number bed. And then I found, to my amazement, that one of the aspects of a Sleep Number bed, thank you, Yvonne, is that it basically is an air mattress. The one that you can control the amount of air that is in the mattress. Now, being the person I am, I went, really? That makes sense. And so I went online and I bought myself a really interesting, thank you so much, Annie. Yvonne just made me very content. She bought me a Frosty.
It's very melty already. It's very melty already.
Okay, thank you. Not as much as you think. Yvonne said it's very milky already, but it isn't. Needs a bit more time. So you can imagine I'm going, air mattress, really? And so I went and bought one. Not a big one, but a small one, which would fill in the space that, where I have messed with the mattress. And I thought it's worth a try to see if it makes a difference. I cannot tell you what a difference it's made. It's probably only about a body wide, maybe a little bit wider, but it also has pockets in it, pockets of air. When you blow it up, it has these little cushions of air rather than flat. And then my bed is one of those beds that goes up at the top and also at the feet if you wanted to. And because it's got those pockets of air, I didn't overfill it with air, so that when the bed bends, it still has room to do that. And the question is, how is my back when I wake up in the morning? Remarkably free of pain. All for the sake of, I think it was a $5 mattress. My own DearMamaSal Sleep Number bed. Sometimes the simple answer is the easy one, and also a good one. The only part of my mattress that's not solid is that little bit where I sit. Makes perfect sense to me. Martha Washington said the greater part of our happiness or misery depends on our dispositions and not our circumstances. It depends on how we see things, not on how the things we have. It's that old story. Play the cards you were given. I have throughout my life asked myself, and I don't know if any of you do this, but when I'm grateful about things, I go, I'm really grateful for having two hands. And then I say to myself, I wonder what I'd do if I only had one. Please tell me to stop sucking on this thing. What would I do if I only had one? And then I can hear myself say, which one? But because all my life I wanted to think about that reality. I am really grateful that I can hear, not very well these days, but it's not worrying me too much because all my life I've asked myself, what would you do if you couldn't hear? Or what would you do if you couldn't see? And so I am grateful for these things, but I also, in reality, have lived my life wondering how I would cope if I didn't have them. And then, I think about very famous people who cannot see. I'm thinking Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles. Or, you could have such a long list of people who didn't let their ability to see stop them from being highly successful. Helen Keller comes to mind. And then there, I am sure, although I don't know, I'd have to research that, but very famous people who didn't hear well. But you see, they were grateful for all the other things they could do. They didn't concentrate on, well, I can't be happy because I can't hear. I would think, to a large extent, some of you would say, I would probably be happier if I couldn't hear. The constant nagging, the constant complaining, the constant, my life isn't good enough. Imagine if you didn't have to hear that anymore. And we do know that there are people in our lives that constantly are complaining about something. And so there's part of me that goes, if we were not able to hear, we would just see mouths moving. Immanuel Kant said that we are not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. We are not rich by what we possess, but what we can do without. Wealth consists of not having great possessions, but in having few wants. Wealth consists of not having great possessions, but in having few wants. Niasha is asking, what does thinking about the what ifs do to the mind? This never crossed my thoughts. It depends how you do it, Niasha. I try to do it in a very positive way. There are other people who use what if and end up in a very negative place. So to me, it's like, I like to be able to cope with things, right? What if I didn't have electricity? How would I cope? What if I didn't have water? How would I do that? How would I get it? So I like to look at things to get the balance right. What if you didn't have any presents on your birthday? Could you cope with that? You see, if the answer is yes, then you are a content person. What if nobody ever understood you? Could you still be happy? There you go, Beth. Beth is saying, what if I choose my own path rather than following someone else's idea of what my path should be? Right? Because when you do what's right for you, you will be content. Nyasha's saying, that's me, I'm always complaining. But don't see that, recognize it, and move on from there. You know, your next goal is to, can I learn to complain less? And what I would ask is, how would you do that? Do you have any ideas, Kerry, on how somebody could complain less? How about Beth? How about Jody? And, you know, some of you have learned that skill. I would think that for a lot of you, realizing that your life could be a lot worse stops you complaining. And the other thing is, can I ask you as human beings, when people just do nothing but complain, you know, if every time, let's say a viewer, if every time they came on to the broadcast, they're complaining about something, what does it feel like as another viewer? Do you sort of roll your eyes and go, here we go again, another complaint? Or do you go, oh, that's a really nice person? You know, so human nature will tell you, it's not that you shouldn't be honest about things. It's about, are you in balance? Can you only talk about the bad things? Or can you be grateful for the good? Elizabeth Gilbert, in that incredible book and then the movie Eat, Pray, Love, said at some point you've got to let go and sit still and allow contentment to come to you. Khalid Hosseini in The Kite Runner said, that same night I wrote my first short story. It took me 30 minutes. It was a dark little tale about a man who found a magic cup and learned that if he wept into the cup, his tears turned to pearls. But even though he had always been poor, he was a happy man and rarely shed a tear. So he found ways to make himself sad so that his tears could make him rich. As the pearls piled up, so did his greed grow. The story ended with a man sitting on a mountain of pearls, knife in hand, weeping helplessly into a cup with his beloved wife's slain body in his arms. Isabel is saying, yes, this is about how to stop complaining. Isabel is saying there is a book about this, and they give purple bracelets as reminders to break the cycle of how to stop complaining in 21 days. It's like an elastic band that you can just, snap it. Am I right, Isabel? So that every time you complain, by the way, you can do it with a regular rubber band if you happen to have one, elastic band. You can just literally go, I hear myself complaining again. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the idea. You know, some people have learned the trick of actually pinching themselves when they hear themselves complain. You know, just not to hurt yourself, but just pinch. Oh, I heard myself complain again. And I can assure you that, you just need to be aware of what it does when you hear people constantly complain and never appear to be grateful. What does it do to you when you have people that do that? Carrie's saying, I grew up hearing whining gets you nowhere. It's one of her mum's famous quotes. And I can honestly and wholeheartedly agree. If I find myself whining, I start thinking of all I've got to be grateful for. Now, Beth is saying something interesting as well. She said, my coworker complains about everything and nothing. I find myself less interested in what she is saying. It's making me not feel compassion for her. Actually, Beth, it's not that it's making you do that because you choose what you do, all right? But you do feel less compassion for somebody who is always complaining of a hurt, of a, I don't have enough time, of a, this is broken, that's broken, whatever. Nyasha saying, it's so funny because I don't have any friends. And strangely enough, I'm happy being by myself. As for gifts on birthdays, I don't get anything. I used to be sad, but now I'm alive. I'm okay. Yes, right. If you're grateful to be alive. And by the way, you are such a creative person, Nyasha. I quite often make myself gifts for my birthday. Another thing I do is give myself a gift of time. You know what I mean? I go, okay, it's my day off. I can enjoy this day and play mud pies or do whatever. And Dr. Zeus said, just tell yourself, Ducky, you're really quite lucky. Loneliness is the poverty of self, and solitude is the richness of self. Right? That you understand the difference between being lonely and having solitude. You can be alone and not be miserable. Allen Ginsberg said, we are all golden sunflowers inside. Noel Langley, the Wizard of Oz, said, if I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any further than my own backyard. Because if it isn't there, I never really lost it to begin with. Yes, Jody is saying to Nyasha that she may not have friends in her geography where she lives, but she said she has friends throughout the world because she has her DearMamaSal friends. And sometimes those friends can be of greater value than those that are very close. Carrie's saying, on my last birthday, I said I didn't want anything because I had everything I needed. I still got a few. And she said, I just want a simple dinner and time with my loved ones. Yeah, that is true contentment. Well done, Carrie. That is so good to hear that you can see that, right? And yes, just thanking Jody for that very kind thought. It's so very true, she said. Ah, that's so sweet. And Crystal says, I agree, the connections you gain here are special. I assure you that my life was made much more valuable in so many ways for meeting the Oz. um, and in ways I never dreamt possible. And it was such a great gift that when he ended up in Indonesia and with a heart attack, I could not believe that he told me, right? And I've got a feeling I was one of very few in the world to know it had happened to him. And it was I just realized in that moment that the bond was not just one way, it was two ways. And so to me, it is very, very important that we understand that the friends that we make online sometimes might be the only friends we've got. And so let's value that. And let's learn from it as well. Liv Grossman in The Magician said, for just 1 second, look at your life and see how perfect it is. Stop looking for the next secret door that's going to lead you to your real life. Stop waiting. This is it. There's nothing else. It's here, and you better decide to enjoy it, or you're going to be miserable wherever you go for the rest of your life and forever. Think about that, right? If you can look at your life and see how perfect it is, maybe you're lucky enough, as I've said many times, to have a roof over your head. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a job when lots of people haven't. Maybe you're lucky enough to have friends or family or sight or the ability to feel, the ability to talk, the ability to hear. Maybe you have electricity. Maybe you have water and you don't have to walk 4 hours to find it. Maybe you have the ability to heat your house without walking 5 hours to go find wood. Beth is saying people need people. Find the blessing of others will deepen your life in so many ways. Online friends and real life friends, it doesn't matter. Grow from each other like a blooming flower. Boy, you're good, Beth. Charles Schultz of Charlie Brown fame said, learn from yesterday, live for today, look to tomorrow, and rest this afternoon. So potentially, does it make sense to you all that I could have a very difficult day tomorrow if I choose to? And the actually interesting thing was I was given the choice either to stay at home and let the inspector walk through my home with the would-be buyers, or not to be here. And I chose not to be here. Now, probably my realtor would prefer not to have to come over and be my representative, but it is part of the deal. But I don't want to hear somebody tearing my house apart verbally. What about you? Because that is their job. This isn't working properly, that isn't working properly. Da, 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 da. I don't want to listen to that. It will not be good for me. Carrie said, I'm content with everything and everyone in my life. I don't need materialistic things. I'm just happy with my tribe because they all love me unconditionally. There you go. Isn't that beautiful, Carrie? That's lovely to hear. Niesha says, I really wish I was all in your parts of the world. The connections felt here. I know we would be great friends in real life. Well, that might be, or it might be very disappointing. Maybe not so. So I'm very grateful for the friendships I have built. I am very grateful for what I have. I don't need it to be more. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm very grateful to have Lauren sitting in Tasmania, or Jody in New Hampshire, or Beth in wherever you are, Beth, or Kerry at, wait a minute, I'm down south somewhere, Kentucky, right? Or Kerry in Kansas. It doesn't worry me where in the world you are. I am just honored that you spend time with me. And Kazo Ishiguro said, all I know is that I have wasted all these years looking for something, a sort of trophy I'd get only if I really, really did enough to deserve it. But I don't want it anymore. I want something else now, something warm and sheltering, something I can turn to, regardless of what I do, regardless of what I have become, something that will just be there, always, like tomorrow's sky. That's what I want now, and I think it's what you should want too. But it will be too late soon, will become too set to change. If we don't take our chances now, another may never come for either of us. That was in his book, When We Were Orphans. And Nyasha saying, we read that right. So Kerry is saying, you're all in my tribe, by the way. I'm grateful to you all. You know something that is wonderful to hear, Kerry. And I think about our history, Kerry, over the years, and it's been an incredible time, how many years that we have had that ability to talk through our stuff, all right? And I think there's a difference between talking through your stuff and constantly complaining. And what I would ask you as friends, if that is what we are, if for example, we should hear one of you constantly complaining, would you like a heads up, or would you prefer that we just let it be? Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, a man is happy so long as he chooses to be happy. Pablo Picasso said, I'd like to live as a poor man with lots of money. How many of you can understand that part, that actually that actually really appeals to me, because part of what I'm planning to do is to actually downsize to almost, a poor man dwelling, but to live well. All right, so Nyasha said, the reason I seldom say I don't have friends and forget that I have online ones is I was taught to never have friends online. It's not real. I do apologize. I am sorry. You don't have to apologize. You see, that is somebody else's perception. By the way, Nyasha, ask Erin whether she felt the same way until the day I walked in her door and sat on her bed. Do you understand? Or ask Manon, who was a guest in my house for a few days, and we spent time together traveling. Sometimes the strangest things happen. Nyasha saying she got to develop a whole new way of thinking. Well, that was because you decided to follow your own path. You see, that is the interesting thing. You didn't listen, and you realized you were an adult, and as an adult, you were entitled to make your own decision about whether to have friends online or not. But I also believe, Nyasha, and I will say this to you time and time again, at some level, I know your parents were trying to protect you. They just were treating you like a 10-year-old, not an adult. And did they give you the skills to show you how not to get the wrong people? All right. Those are things that, would have been, because at your age, you're going to be on the internet. Anybody who lives in this age is going to be on the internet. Kerry's saying, I've had an amazing day today. I got up early and went to church with Mike and then came home and spent time with my mother and then went to the store. I've had a great day. Kerry, that's so good to hear. I am, that makes me really joyful inside. Or Jody is saying, I would like a heads up so I could reflect on my behavior. I may be unhappy and not realize how much I'm complaining. Yeah. Jody, I very much doubt we would ever need to do it because you complain very little, if at all. If at all. For all that you have going on in your life, it's really amazing to me how little you complain. And what I'm seeing is that with the learning that you've now got, even when things are going wrong for you, you now look for the good. Like, yeah, the van didn't come to take me where I wanted to go, but I saved a kitty cat instead. I think that is such great serenity and such great contentment. And Kerry's saying, I'm now snuggling with Queen Dora and resting. Good girl, Kerry. I'm pleased to hear that. Beth saying, I kept to myself for years. I thought I was safe and content. But once I opened myself up and I became richer because of the knowledge and the interactions of others, this broadcast was the first step. Well, you know something? You have helped a lot of people, Beth. And I want to tell you, every day when I pull, when I pull out my meal prepping things, you do know I still talk to you during the day. I go, here we go, Beth, let's pre-prep some food. And, I will do that for the rest of my life, Beth. I will see that task as something we do together. And I will quite often say to you, although you may not hear it, okay, Beth, what do you think I should put in here? And I want to thank Jody for balancing so often. Oh yeah, I got a little Beth on my shoulder. I'll go to put the wrong things in, and you'll go, Mind you, the other day, you really did a big smile. What did I have yesterday for breakfast? A boiled egg. Hang on, let me think here. I had a boiled egg. Can't remember. Oh gosh, anyway, it was like 2 lots of protein and some fruit. It was just, I looked at it and I went, oh, Beth would be really pleased with it. And I didn't even have cheese. By the way, I've got to say this, Beth, that my eating habits really have started to change. I still want the bad stuff every now and then, mostly when I'm under stress. But what I've noticed is my day-to-day eating has really changed. I didn't think that I would be able to fast at all, but I do. And I thank Jody for helping me understand that one a bit better. But Beth, what I've noticed is that I can make burgers for other people and I will just have just the straight patty for myself and not feel Okay, so Jody's telling me I had fruit, a hard-boiled egg, and a few nuts. Thank you, Jody. You see, Jody knows. Did you look at the picture? All right, so Nyasha, breathe. Breathe. She's going back to the comment about being told she wasn't allowed to find friends on the internet. They were going to be real friends. Nyasha said that was a lie, and I believe what they should have told me or taught me was how to look out for the fake or deceitful ones. But unfortunately, I wasn't taught anything. Yes, I quite agree. I quite agree with you. I think, I think that we need to teach people how to be careful. Do you watch the, I don't know if you have it in your country, but the program Catfish? Because I think that's a really good program for giving you examples of how fake some people can be. Harry's saying, I don't really complain much anymore, thankfully, because I've learned that I'm more fortunate than most. Yes, well done, Gary. Yeah. And the reason I enjoy Catfish is because to me, it is a reminder. I used to say to people when I was on stage, and people would say to me, you're such a nice person. I said, how do you know that to be true? No one can feel it. And I said, but how do you know that to be true? Maybe I pull the wings off butterflies when I go home. And they go, nah. And I go, but why do you believe that to be true? You see, because if I'm a really good actress, maybe I could pretend that. And I'm thinking about some of the great serial killers, look like really nice people. What was I doing? I was shopping oh, you'll see eventually when I get around to editing it, you'll see an interaction I had with somebody in a store. And one of the things that I did was I asked for permission to drink a Coke Zero, which I never buy, but I did. And you'll realize when you watch the video, you'll understand why that was important. But I don't buy pop, right? Because I got my own soda machine if I wanted. But anyway, I did buy some Coke Zero. And I asked permission to drink it while I was shopping. And I found somebody with the right, store clothes on and said, hey, I just want to make sure I want to know if it's okay for me to drink this while I go shop, while I do my shopping, because I'm really thirsty. And I ended up in a huge conversation, as you can imagine, with this guy. And you'll find out why when you see the video. But the interesting thing was, he said, are you going to pay for it? I said, of course I am. And he said, so now it's just a case of whether I believe you or not. And I said, exactly. Yeah. And then he looked at me and with that sort of wry smile, he said, I think I'll take that risk. And I said, just have a second thought about that before you do. And he said, why? And I said, somebody who looks as honest as I probably do to you is probably the best con artist you will ever meet. And he loved that. He said, actually, you're right, aren't you? And I said, yep, right. So I would think it probably is. If you give her a second, Jody will confirm it. They probably do have copies of it on YouTube. It's actually on television. But it's a program all about people who get into relationships with people that they think are real, but they're not. They're people pretending to be other people, or they're people using other people's pictures. And I think you will learn a lot if you can see it. You would learn a lot, Nyasha, about the sort of tricks that people get up to. And the ways that you can protect yourself a little bit. Yes, exactly, Beth. Right. Beth is saying that's so true. Half the people, and Beth is a store manager, half the people I catch trying to steal stuff are the sweetest looking grandma types. I am shocked every day. Well, I want to tell you something. The story that this guy told me, by the way, the guy turned out to be, the assistant manager or something. What he was doing, stocking shelves, I don't know, but he was stocking shelves. He was another Beth, I guess. Yeah, it shows you what they do to work out who are the deceitful ones, and they hunt them down, Asha. It's very entertaining. But what I like about it is they actually try and make sure um, that both people end up in a good place. And I really admire them for that. I really admire that they don't sort of, end up calling the police on the other person or doing whatever, but they do try and make it a learning thing for both sides. Kerry's saying the good news is I am who I say I am, but that's also the bad news. yeah, I think that would be true of me as well, Kerry. It's like I say to people, something happened the other day and somebody asked me a question and I told them the truth as I saw it, and they went, wow, I wasn't expecting that answer. I said, please don't ask me a question if you don't want the truth. Please don't ask me for my opinion if you don't want it. If you want me to say what you want to hear, then ask somebody else, because I can't do it. If you ask me for my opinion, right or wrong, and I don't claim to be right all the time, but right or wrong, I will give it as truthfully as I know how. So, how many of you have found contentment worth listening to today? How many of you are glad that you popped in for a few minutes and slowed down just a little bit? And from all that you heard, which ones were your aha moments for you? Kerry says that she did. All right, so Niasha says, I am also like that. I never fool anyone, and I never have, and I never will. Crystal's very grateful. Crystal, I'm sending you such a big hug. I still see you with makeup. Am I right on that one? And I just want to know if I got this right, but I know every time I go to a store and I see Wet and Wild, I think of you. It's the most amazing thing. I will literally be in a store and I'll do a double take and I'll see the Wet and Wild and I will go, that's the first lady in business. I just, you have imprinted that on my brain. All right. Well done, Kerry. I'm proud of you. Kerry's saying, I finally slowed down and had free time to come and relax. You know something, Kerry, and we could feel it too. If you want to, scroll back and see how all your input, when you started, and then see how it developed, it was beautiful to watch. Abandon faulty states of mind. Yes, when we can let go of our negative mentality and emotion, all right, that we've been working on that all year. When we can let go of that thinking, it's amazing how content we can be. Jody, were you able to see if Catfish was on YouTube? Hang on, yes, Niasha, some of the episodes are on YouTube. Well done. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. Niasha, did you see that? So just literally type in Catfish when you get to YouTube, and it should bring you up. You're an absolute star, Jody. Thank you so much. And by the way, a big round of applause again for Jody. because she certainly keeps my life pretty contented when I am concentrating. One of the most difficult things to do on a Sunday is to keep at that level, at that pace, and not let the input of what's happening on the chat screen affect that. And I really am so grateful for Jody for keep reminding people that on Sundays, my job is to keep the pace as it is and not get overly involved in things. But I really am happy that we had this time. You know, the First Lady of Biz, otherwise known as Crystal, says, staying in the moment, not allowing the anxiety of the future or the past consume what we're experiencing now. I can assure you what's going to happen tomorrow, you guys will hear soon enough, right? What's for dinner? Thank you, Carrie. It is shepherd's pie and freshly baked rolls and vegetables. And Beth, it is really funny because in the old days, I would slop on, you know, probably about 4 cups of shepherd's pie on my plate. And I really have to tell you, Beth, that because of the food prepping, I can now take 1 spoon of it and enjoy it. And very occasionally I will go for a second. But you know, Beth, you have had such an impact. I need to go and get that done. All right, so Jody is saying, I am grateful for each and every one of you. Oh, and Sal, thank you for being a great source of contentment in my life. It is my absolute pleasure, Jody. And thank you for helping me keep my teeter-totter balanced. For those of you who missed that, I did go and have my A1C test done. That's my blood sugar on the diabetes. And I am still exactly the same as I was last time, which amazed me. I was so fearful that because of all the stress and everything else, that I had gone into a higher level, and I didn't. But now it really needs me to do a lot of work to make sure that I keep it there for the next 3 months, because we all know it's going to be a pretty stressful 3 months, especially with Big Brother Jeff coming. For those of you who remember Big Brother Jeff, he will be here, I think, September 7th for a week. And so it's going to be lots of eating and stuff. Right, there you go, Nyasha. You'll enjoy them. Nyasha says, yes, I searched for it and I found a few. Thank you. I'll watch it after this. Yeah, enjoy and let us know. Give us some feedback next time you're on to let us know what you learn, because that's the important thing. All right, everybody, big hugs to you all. And enjoy finding whatever it is you're going to. You know, sometimes, Kerry, it pays just to walk into the kitchen and open up a few cupboards and see what you got, and then make the decision. All right, everybody. Oh, the other thing, Kerry, I am now in a thing where about every 3 months I'm emptying out my freezer to find out what is in there. Because what I realized is I was just chucking more and more stuff into my freezer and I had no idea what was in there. So that helps as well. This is DearMamaSal saying, thank you so much for taking the time to just stop and breathe and be in the moment. And through that, find some contentment. I am now going to go and make the final thing on shepherd's pie, and then put the mash on top and grill it. And, yeah, good stuff. Look after one another, but most of all, please. If you are not in a space of contentment, I'd like to say you might want to do some more work on yourself. It's DearMamaSal saying, bye-bye for now. It's not about them, it's about you.